Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on a really interesting pistol because of its reputation. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Walther PPQ. Now the reputation that this handgun has is that its trigger is absolutely fantastic for a polymer framed striker fired pistol. When this gun hit the market, I really think that was one of its big selling points, and I have seen many YouTubers, gun writers, and reviewers talk about it. Now this particular example is the standard version, but it is chambered in .40 Smith & Wesson. Yes, it's chambered in .40 caliber. Now when I picked this up from the gentleman that loaned it to the channel, he said, hey, don't judge me on that because this was one of the first pistols I ever bought. And I think that sometimes people get into .40 caliber when they first get into guns because they're told it's the great compromise between 9 and 45. And sometimes you can get really good deals on 40, but we know right now in the gun culture, people are turning away from 40. It's not necessarily a dying caliber in that it's going to be extinct in a few years. It's just that other things like ballistics and 9mm have grown so much that you get the ballistic advantage of maybe a .40 caliber, but you get more capacity. And that's one of the downsides to a gun like this, because when .40 caliber was becoming so popular, many gun companies pretty much just scaled up 9mm models to .40 cal. And when I started to shoot .40 caliber, I was like, man, these guns are really snappy. I didn't like them, especially if they were very small guns. However, there are a few guns out there that are chambered in .40 caliber that I find to be very comfortable to shoot. And these guns specifically are guns that were initially designed around the .40 caliber, like the HK USP. I find that is a very comfortable gun to shoot, and I like the fact that you do get the added ballistics of .40 caliber, because once you apply that 9mm technology to .40 cal, you get an even more effective round. However, if this round is put in a gun that is just too snappy, it's not enjoyable to shoot, and I just rather have 9mm. So while we're not here to have a caliber debate, the fact that this gun is chambered in .40 caliber is going to be part of this review, because I'm curious, how does this gun take this cartridge? Is it going to be snappy? Is it going to affect the way that I shoot it? Is it going to affect the accuracy? Because anytime I review a gun that's chambered in .40, I think it is worth talking about, because some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it, and some people are not going to care. But I do think it is an interesting characteristic about any handgun that should be talked about. But before we get into the things that I like and don't like about this pistol, as always, I want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really cool Walther. His name is Colin. He's a fan and subscriber of the Texas Gun Vault. So thank you so much, Colin. It means so much that you lent this gun to the channel for review. I also want to thank my Patreon supporters, because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here. And if you guys want to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, you can do that with a link in the description below and get all these videos early. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor for every range report, because he provides the ammunition, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And I know if you're watching this video, you're watching it on a review of a gun that does not accept wood panel grips. But if you are like me, most likely you have a pretty good collection. You have a gun like a 1911, a CZ75, a Browning High Power, or a Beretta 92, and you're thinking, man, it'd be awesome if I had a set of customized wood grips for my beautiful gun. Well, I have the perfect company for you, Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. Mark, the owner and head craftsman over there, is an artist. He can make things that you can only dream of. Anything you can imagine. Things from laminate woods, using alligator skin, using snake skin, finishing these grips in a wide variety of colors and a wide variety of ways, and putting on custom logos and custom engravings. Mark can do it. I know that I'm rolling in some pictures of his best work, and you guys can see that this stuff is unique and one of a kind. So I'm going to ask you guys to go over there and check out his website. Everything is made to order and specifically designed for his customers' needs. So please go over there, check out his website. There's going to be a link in the comments section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. Please go over there, see what he has to offer, and when you contact Mark to order, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. Alright, so I know in the opening of this video I spent a lot of time talking about the particular caliber this example is chambered in. But now let's talk about this gun and its history. The Walther PPQ is the successor to the Walther P99, another firearm with a great reputation. But this gun unfortunately has been discontinued and replaced by the Walther PDP. Another gun that's known to be really good with a very nice trigger. Now this trigger, Walther calls the quick defense trigger, and something that makes it a little bit different than some of their competitors is that when the striker in this gun is cocked, ready to fire, it is fully cocked and not at half cock like a Glock. So when you pull this trigger back, you're not having to add that tension to the striker spring. Now some people think that can be dangerous. Walther has never had an issue. They have all of the other internal safeties that other companies offer, such as the firing pin safety. So I don't really think it's an issue, but that's one of the reasons why this trigger can be so good and so crisp when you pull it. So now let's talk about the things that I like and don't like about these guns. And the first thing I got to say that I like, because I always want to start with the positive first, is the fact that this is a Walther. I think Walther is one of the most underrated firearms companies in the world. They've been making guns for a long time, and their heritage of making guns for military and police is legendary. And so these guns are known to be rugged. They're designed for that type of use. And so when they're in your hands as a common civilian, well, you know these things are going to outlast you. They're going to be robust, well built, well constructed, and a lot of great engineering has gone into them. And that's just been my experience with Walther with every firearm I've ever shot of theirs. Another thing that's a huge advantage about the PPQ is that it does have some parts compatibility with the P99. So they use the same sights and the Generation 2 magazines from the P99 series. So if you have a P99, you could buy a PPQ and not have to worry about buying a whole ton of new magazines. Now this gun also has what some people refer to as the Batman grip. Now I've heard that used with HK and Walthers. As you can see, we do have some finger grooves here, and normally I am not a big fan of finger grooves. However, these are not overly done, and I find them to be very, very comfortable. This is a very ergonomic grip. I really like it. I think they spent a lot of time on it to balance it between ergonomics and making it feel good, but also having a very nice texture to it. I'm very impressed by it. And something else about this gun that is absolutely fantastic is how easy it is to take down. You have two little levers here on the side, so all you gotta do is, of course, drop the magazine, ensure the gun is unloaded. Of course, you gotta pull the trigger, then you pull these tabs down, and the whole slide comes off that easy. So seal stripping and maintenance, super easy. And obviously I've already talked about the fantastic trigger in this, and that's a huge, huge selling point. So before I go on to the things that I don't like about this gun, let me get out the Lyman trigger pull gauge and let's test this thing out and let's see how light it actually is. And then we'll get on to the rest of the range report. All right, so I know I've said it, but the Walther PPQ has been known to have possibly the best stock polymer striker fire trigger on the market. Many people have said it. So let's go ahead and try out this trigger. Let's actually see what the pull weight on this is and get that data. As always, we will safety check the firearm. Let's drop the magazine, ensure that there is no ammunition in it, and then visually inspect the chamber. It looks like we are good. Then we're going to get out the Lyman trigger pull gauge. Once again, thank you, Craig, a local fan and subscriber who gave this to the channel because he wanted this quantifiable data. Let's turn this thing on. Let's make sure the average is clear, and let's get some trigger pulls on this. Here's the first one. 4 pounds, 6.9 ounces. 4 pounds, 12.4 ounces. Four pounds, 8.9 ounces. Four pounds, 7.6 ounces. And 4 pounds, 14.1 ounces, which gives us an average of 4 pounds, 10 ounces on the dot. Now, I know that might not be the lightest trigger in the world, but I'm just telling you, when you pull this trigger back, it has a great feel. It's very crisp. It's pretty light, less than 5 pounds, which is really light, but not so light that I think it would be dangerous. Because once you start getting down into a target trigger, anything less than 3 pounds, I really don't think that is good for concealed carry. But something in the 4-pound range with a great wall that's really crisp, I think is absolutely perfect for a duty trigger and for a range trigger. So that's the pull weight on this particular example. So let's get back to the rest of the range report. All right, and as you can see, this trigger is pretty darn nice for a duty trigger. But now let's talk about a couple of things about this gun that I don't like. And the first one is going to be the caliber. Now, yes, you can buy this in other calibers as 9 and 45, but this particular example is in 40, and I've already talked about why I'm not a huge fan of 40. And for me, the biggest downside, besides it being a little bit snappy, is the lack of capacity. In a gun like this, chambered in 9mm, I'm used to having 15 or even 17 rounds in an extended magazine. However, in this gun, with the extended mag, I think you only get about 13 rounds in it. Yeah, it's kind of anemic. If you have the flush fit one, you're dealing with about 10 to 11. And I kind of feel like that is underpowered in the capacity world. And I just wish it had something different, like a different design magazine, and they can bring the technology that other companies are bringing to 9mm to put a lot of rounds into a small package. We'll just kind of scale that up a little bit and let me get some more capacity in these magazines. And then finally, the other thing I think deals with that striker that I was talking about earlier. The Walther P99 had a striker indicator on the back of the slide. You would be able to see if the gun was cocked or not, and I kind of like that. This gun, however, does not have that in the back plate. And let me see if I can get this on camera. You don't have a place for the striker to protrude through the firearm. So you can't tell if that striker is cocked or not. And I just feel like on a fully cocked striker, that is something that I really would like to have. All right, so we've talked about the things that I like and don't like about this particular gun, so let's get it to the range. I've yapped enough about it. So I'm gonna load up a magazine on this, get my initial thoughts and impressions, and as always, I'm gonna set out the target at about 7 yards. I just wanna see if I discover anything about this gun that I like or don't like that I didn't find out here just by shooting it. So here we go, let's get it to the range. All right, so my initial impressions are pretty good. Yeah, I started off a little bit low on that target, but maybe these sights are set up to be like the SIG combat sights where the front dot needs to be a little bit elevated above the rear ones. Now, when it comes to the recoil, I'm very surprised about this. This gun really feels like a 9mm. It's taking that 40 caliber recoil and absorbing it fantastically. I'm very impressed with that. This is one of the nicest shooting 40 calibers I've shot in a long time. It shoots like a bigger and heavier gun. So far, so good. and I'm really impressed. All right, so as always, let me double the distance on this target. Let me see if this group opens up any or if I continue to shoot it pretty good now that I know where the point of impact is as compared to the point of aim. So here we go, double the distance and another magazine. And I pretty much have the same comments that I did before, in that this trigger is absolutely fantastic and the recoil is great. Now, one thing I don't think I've shown you so far on camera is what the trigger pull actually looks like. So let me go ahead and do that. So here's the initial take up of the trigger. It's a little bit on the long side, but when you hit that wall, it is solid, and then it breaks like glass. Very nice. And then the reset is super short. Take a look at that. So here's that reset again. Right there, and you are at that wall. Very, very impressive. Now, when it comes to the accuracy, while this might not be the tack driver that I'm used to in maybe a 2011 pistol, this thing is definitely great for practical and duty accuracy. And it shoots great. So for a self-defense handgun for me, it would be absolutely perfect. No problems whatsoever. All right, so the next test I want to do is the bench rest or the shooting against a barrier test. I'm going to put the target out about as far as I can at this indoor range. And the hardest thing I usually have to overcome at this is I can't see where the bullets are impacting the targets because they're so small. But I'm just going to hold the sights on the center of that target and hopefully get the best group that I can. So here about 20 or 25 yards and another magazine. And let me test this gun's accuracy at the furthest distance I can at this range. And although I could not see the impacts, I'm pretty happy with that grouping. Now, something I am doing that I think I can control is that the gun is shooting a little bit to the left, but I think that is me and not the gun. One of the things that I do often with a gun with a short length of pull, which is the length from the front of the trigger to the back of the grip, is I might put a little bit of my big old fat finger into that trigger guard just a little bit too much, and as I pull the trigger back, it's not perfectly straight, but it pulls the gun a little bit to the left. So this could be me on this particular gun frame and design. So I think it's me more than it is the firearm. All right, so the next thing I want to do is do the hollow point test. Now, obviously, this is a police and military gun, and I don't think it's going to have any problems running hollow points, but you never know. So I do want to run a magazine of hollow points through this just to make sure it works, and these hollow points often are loaded to a little bit higher pressure, so maybe the gun will start to feel a little bit more like 40 than it does, because right now, as I said, this gun feels like a 9mm. I'm not used to that with a 40, and I really, really like that. So here we go. Let me just function test this pistol with some hollow points. And that was exactly the results that I was expecting to get. No failures to feed, failures to eject. The gun ran fine and was still accurate. And you might even notice I was shooting some flames out of that barrel with those rounds. So that particular loading was definitely hotter than your standard 40, but I couldn't feel it in the gun at all. So now the next test we're going to do is really to combine the last two tests I normally do, which is the quick magazine change test and the mag dump. And the reason we're just going to combine them is because the capacity of these magazines is only about 11 and 13 comparatively. So we're just going to load them up to full capacity and do the quick magazine change, because there's no need in separating those because it's not a huge capacity magazine to begin with. So the mag dump isn't going to be that impressive, but I think I can shoot this gun really, really fast. Now, something I need to make you aware of for this portion of the video is the owner of this pistol, Colin, is a lefty. And I forgot to mention earlier in the video, he had changed the magazine button to the right-hand side. So in order for me to drop the magazine as a right-handed shooter, I have to use my trigger finger. And believe it or not, this is actually pretty darn ergonomic. Now, I really feel like the magazine button should be ambi, but having it over here is really nice. It kind of reminds me of like the HK paddle mag releases, which I like, because they're on the side of the trigger guard and you push down and those are ambi and you can use your trigger finger. This is actually relatively natural and ergonomic, but I had to adjust for that in this footage. So I hope you enjoy this. This is the quick magazine change test, and just do a mag dump as quickly as I can, see how fast I can shoot it. And man, I think I can shoot this gun really, really fast. This trigger is awesome. So this gun has been a lot of fun. Just wow, what an awesome firearm. And I'm so lucky I've had a chance to review one of these. And I'm really glad I got to review one in 40 caliber. So what are my final thoughts on the Walther PPQ chambered in 40 caliber, this being the standard version? I have to say, I'm very impressed with it. This thing obviously has a great trigger. Everybody knows about that. It's pretty darn accurate, I think, for practical range and duty use and for self-defense. I didn't have any failures to feed, failures to eject, no malfunctions whatsoever. Just overall an awesome, reliable gun. Very, very impressed with it. And I can see why the PPQ has the reputation that it does. Now, I have reviewed the PDPs, which are the successor to these, and those are great pistols too. Now, I know Walther is not as popular as Glock or Smith & Wesson, but as I said, I think they're just very underrated, and I don't know why that is. Every Walther I've shot has been, honestly, just a fantastic firearm. Who knows, maybe it's their marketing. I don't know. But on my star system, how would I rate the PPQ from Walther, chambered in 40 caliber? Well, I'm easily giving this thing 4.5 stars out of 5. Maybe if the gun was a little bit more accurate for me and I shot it a little bit better, it'd be 5 out of 5 stars. But this thing exceeded my expectations. Absolutely fantastic. Very impressed with the trigger and very impressed with the fact it handles the 40 caliber so well. So this is a gun I would actually recommend to people in 40 because you're going to be able to shoot it and manage that recoil if you are recoil sensitive, and you will get those better ballistics out of 40. 40. You just lose that capacity. But that's another talk for another day when it comes to the great caliber wars. But I think if you get this in 9 or 40, you'll be perfectly fine. Now, I have not shot one of these in 45, and I'm not sure if, like the Glocks, the frames are bigger. That's one of the things about the Glock 45s I'm not a big fan of. I think their frames are just too fat. But I've only shot these now in 9 and 40, and I'm very impressed. I find them to be ergonomic and handle the recoil great. So it exceeded my expectations. 4.5 stars out of 5, once again, for the Walther PPQ. Thank you again, Colin, for lending this to the channel. Great pistol, great trigger, great design. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and do you guys agree with me that Walther is an underrated company? So, as always, thanks for watching.